Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Denali and I am a full-time online clothing reseller on websites like eBay and Poshmark. If you're not subscribed to my channel and you'd like to be, hit the button down below. And if you find this video informative today, give me a thumbs up on your way out. So about a week or so ago, I did a video on how to have the competitive advantage when you're out thrifting or at the Goodwill outlet. The big takeaway from that video is to go outside the regular categories that you're used to of picking up items. So for instance, if you're only used to picking up modern women's clothing, then give men's clothing a chance. If you don't like picking up men's clothing, try picking up some items, maybe shoes or vintage or children's clothing or sneakers or lots of different things, because you may find you actually enjoy selling those items or that they have a good return on investment and there's a reason other people pick up those items to sell. So I want to follow up with a second part of this video on another way that you can have a competitive advantage when you're out thrifting, or especially at the Goodwill outlet. That's where I do a lot of my thrifting, and so I can really speak from my own experience there. So my tip there is it kind of falls in line, right? I'm going to say is to pick up the things that other people don't want to deal with. I guess it's a little bit different, right? I mean, there's always somebody who wants to sell shoes, or there's always somebody who wants to sell vintage. But I'm talking more specifically about the pieces of clothing or hard goods or shoes. Be willing to grab the items that other people are more apprehensive to sell. So what might be reasons that people are apprehensive to sell this item? It's damaged. That's going to be the most obvious one, right? Or there's a flaw to it. I think a lot of people get scared off of selling items with flaws or damages because they think it won't sell, or they're nervous about a return. And I completely understand that, because those are two very legitimate reasons to not want to pick up those items. However, it's really about disclosing those flaws in your listings, especially if an item, if it's an electronic item and it doesn't work or doesn't turn on. That's just something you need to disclose, but that doesn't mean it has no value. For instance, I'm just going to say a broken cell phone. Maybe you have an iPhone 8. I don't know. You have an iPhone 8 and the screen is completely cracked, and you can plug it in and it will turn on, but the screen is cracked, and the cost to repair a screen is probably somewhere in the ballpark of $100 on the low end, probably $200 on the high end. You don't want to pay to get it fixed, so you just got a new phone. Now it's sitting in a junk closet that you have. Well, there's value to that. Surprisingly, you could probably resell that phone for about $100 to $200, the cost to replace that screen. So while it might not be worth it for you to pay to replace the screen, it would be worth it for you to just sell it as is and fully disclose the flaws. Now, a lot of people who follow my channel or watch my content probably sell clothing. So let's move over now to clothing. So when I'm at the Goodwill outlet, for instance, I'm going to talk about my experience where I thrift. Oftentimes, I see a lot of clothing that is flawed. Perhaps I'll pick up a really nice cashmere sweater. I hold it up to the light, and all of a sudden I start seeing a couple of holes in it. And I think to myself, wow, this is a really great brand. This sweater probably retailed for $500 or $600. It's unfortunate it's got a couple of small holes here. I would encourage you to look up comps on the item, see what it's previously sold for. Maybe it resells for, let's say, $60 pre-owned. Well, if it sells in good condition for $60 pre-owned, what's the value on it flawed, right? There is still a value on it. There are people who don't mind if there's a flaw. If if it literally looks like Swiss cheese and there's holes all over it, I mean, you have to make good decisions for your business. Is that going to be a good purchase? I don't know. However, it's just something to think about, because I would probably pick up that cashmere sweater with 2 holes in it and say, yeah, I could probably still get $20 to $30 for this. Now, experienced sellers who might be watching this video are probably going to chime in and say, oh gosh, you can actually lot up cashmere or wool or whatever. I'll use cashmere again as my example because that's what I said. You can lot up cashmere, make lots of it, like LOT, like a lot of it on eBay and sell off lots of cashmere. You're right. That is something you can do. So even piles of busted up old cashmere has value to it, just to kind of give you that example. Now, if there are items at the outlet and you find that you can do a simple repair to it, for instance, it's maybe just missing a few buttons, you know, be willing to go and take that extra step and learn how to sew a button. I'm not great at sewing. I could probably sew a button. I can probably do a button. I'm not going to sew a hem. It's just not in my wheelhouse, but I could probably sew a button. So it may be worth learning how to simply sew a button back onto an item so that you don't have to throw it back and you could still make some money off of it. But to that, I will still say you can still sell it without a button or two buttons, or maybe all of the buttons, right? If the rest of the shirt is intact and it sells for a decent amount of money, maybe it resells pre-owned for $60, then if it's otherwise in great condition, just missing 6 buttons down the front, it's still going to have value because those buttons, it's just real cheap for somebody to take it to a tailor or, you know, their dry cleaners or whomever. Somebody can just sew on those buttons. Maybe their mom, their grandma, their dad, brother, somebody knows how to do that. So I encourage you to pick up the items that other people aren't going to want to deal with. Again, in that vein would be items that have stains on them. I know I don't like necessarily working with stained items either, but that's actually a lot of the inventory that we sell here is stained and flawed items. You'll be surprised at how many sell and how many comments I get from people either before the purchase who they inquire about the stain, you know, how long, like how set in does it look? What's the texture? What's, et cetera, or if it has hole, you know, a hole or it's torn or something like that. How high up is the tear because they want to maybe have a dress taken up. If it's a maxi dress, they'll have it taken up, the amount of the tear. People are willing to work with stained items if it's the right garment. So again, my tip for you is to consider just picking up the items that other people don't want to deal with, because it's going to give you a little bit of a competitive advantage, because now you're going to pick up all this inventory, great inventory, other people are passing over because, yeah, it's got some small flaws to it, but as long as you disclose it in your listing, right, that means you're taking detailed photos of the flaw, possibly that's more than one photo if necessary, and then you're also giving a detailed description down in your description, telling somebody, for instance, 2-inch tear on the right-hand side of the garment, 1-inch stain, or seams have come loose at the hem, etc., etc. I also encourage you, if you sell on eBay, for instance, to not only put the condition of the item in the condition section, additionally, I like to put it in the condition and down in the description, just so we can make sure we do our due diligence in telling the customer, hey, there's something wrong with it. If you want, you can also add the word flawed to your title. People will put flawed. If it was that cracked iPhone screen, I would put cracked up in the title. It just lets people know there's something wrong with this item. On eBay, there is a condition that says like new with defects. So if you did find something new, and I will pick up at the outlet, if I see a new item, but it does have a flaw, I'll still pick it up. And then you just put it as new with defect and disclose the defect. But this will just help you prevent those returns that you may be concerned about. It will be all there for the buyer. So anyways, that's my 2 cents on another way to have a competitive advantage at the outlet. I'm curious for any of you, do you do this? Do you pick up flawed items? I know some people are they're not into it. And I get that. If you're not into it, you're not into it. However, I'm always one for encouraging trying something and seeing if it works for you. So let me know if this is something you do, something you've done and you've given up, etc. and etc. So I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye.